So we just spoke of the organization of the human body, and we start with the chemical level, where we talk about the chemicals like oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and how these chemicals will join together. They form molecules like our DNA or the glucose molecules that we talk about. We know about this from long time. All right. Remember, we're doing an introduction to, we're not doing an in-depth study. All right. We have our textbooks. So after this cursory presentation, then now you go and you do your reading in your own time. All right. But I'm just clearing the way, moving the fuzz, the webs, the cobwebs, so that we can move forward. All right. We said that there are 6 levels of organization. So we start with the chemical. Then we move on to the cellular. The cellular level move up to tissues. So cells form tissues. Tissues form organs. Organs form organ systems. And the organ system gonna form the organism. We're doing an introduction to human anatomy and physiology. We have done the first part of our lecture. Now we're moving on. We're saying we have 4 types of body tissues: the epithelial, the connective, the nervous, and the muscle tissue. And that muscle tissues are further broken down into 3 types of muscle tissues: the skeletal, the smooth, and the cardiac. All of this information is in your textbook. All right. Now you're going to use your pool question book now to find questions that are related to this topic that we have completed here. Our next topics, we are going to be looking at anatomical terminologies. So we're talking about introduction to human anatomy and physiology. In this section, we want to be talking about anatomical terminologies. There's a lot of information in your notes. Well, not a lot, but I mean like a couple of lines, all right? In your textbook. Anatomical terminology. So that's what we're looking at. Scientists and healthcare professionals use a common language of special terms when referring to body structure and their function. So when healthcare workers are talking, they use special terms. They have a language of special terms when they're referring to body structures and their functions. The language of anatomy and physiology has precisely defined meaning, and it allows for effective communication among healthcare professionals. So you might be hearing a word in your everyday talking. All right, you're hearing this word, da 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 da, or XYZ, and then you hear it on the medical streets, and then you'll be saying, no, that's not what it is. It has to be something different. But on the healthcare street, you do have different terminologies, all right, or different meaning to a particular terminology. So let's look at some of them. So body position is one of the terminologies that you'll be hearing. And when they're talking about body positions, all right, they're talking about how you will view a body. So the body can be in the anatomical position, where in this position the body is upright and erect. Or they might be referring to a body that is reclining, and that they're talking about prone and supine. So these terminologies. So let's read a bit. Description of any region or part of the body will assume that the body is in a particular stance called the anatomical position. What is the anatomical position? How will the body be presented? Now, in this position, you're going to have the observer and you're going to have you, the subject. So there's going to be at least one observer per subject. And the subject is whatever or whoever is going to be examined. In the anatomical position, the subject stands erect, facing the observer, with the head level and the eyes facing forward. The feet are flat on the floor and the arms are at the side with the palms turned forward. In the anatomical position, the body is upright. Okay? So, they're talking about the anatomical position. In this position, the body is upright. Note, they say, the head is not tilted in any way. You stand erect, the head is level, and the eyes are facing directly forward. So they talk about the head, level, eyes facing directly forward, feet flat on the floor, arms at the side, your palms gonna be turned outward. So they're not gonna be hitting your legs, they're gonna be outward. That's the anatomical position. Arms are at the side with the palms turned outward. And in the anatomical position, the body is upright or erect. Other body position terms that you will come across: reclining. Reclining position. So we have the prone position, we have the supine position. So in the prone position, you are laid on your belly. You're facing down. So prone means down. Your face is down. In the supine position, your face is up. Why is this important? Even on our street, we are giving care. And sometimes you observe, maybe one of your clients has had an incident, and you have to describe, how did you observe? We normally say fine, but you can't write that. How did you observe your client? The client probably was in one of these reclining positions. And then you would have to write your notes to say, how did you observe your client? When you're doing your rounds and you observe Mr. Gillespie on the floor in the prone position. You observe Mr. Brown in the supine position. So persons on the street will know exactly what you are talking. You observe this man, him drop off of the bed and him dip on him belly. Or him drop off of the bed and him dip on him back. But there are variations now in these reclining position, because you get into this one and the seams and the lateral and the left lateral and the right lateral and right? But different variations, different sitting position, whether they're going to be in folder, high folder, whatever folder positions they might be in. All right, people? So that's where we'll finish this one for now, right? So we have dealt with this anatomical terminologies. All right, moving along. We spoke of the some positions, the anatomical position, and also bodies in reclining positions, the prone and the supine. Remember now that terms that are used on the medical street or words that you might hear on this street might be quite different in meaning from those meanings that you have known over time. All right, so you have to get used to it, because when you go out there, nobody's talking the language that you want them to speak. Persons will be using the language that is accepted universally on this medical street. So we have to be familiar with a couple of them so that we appear knowledgeable. So we want to be looking at some regional names. Regional names, all right, so we're looking at our body, and we are saying that when we look at our body, there are some distinct regions that can be identified. And 5 of those regions that we can identify just looking at a person are their head, the neck, the trunk, the upper limbs, and the lower limbs. So let us talk about these a little bit more. Look at the board. We're still doing introduction to anatomy and physiology. All the talk I'm talking and reading, the information is in your textbook. All right, so I am doing my due diligence so that you can carry on. All right, so I am also reading. Okay, so regional names. The body is divided into several major regions that can be identified externally. The principal regions are the head, and the head consists of the face and the skull. The face is the front part of the head that includes your eye, your mouth, your nose, your forehead, your cheek, your chin. And the skull encloses and protects the brain. So sometimes we say, boy, him head bust. But it can be a cut in the face. It can be the nose that is affected. It can be the forehead, the eyes, the mouth. But in today's language, when we say, boy, him head burst, we are actually saying it is a skull. But that is not correct medically, because the head consists of the face and the skull. And the face is the front portion of the head that includes the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the forehead, the cheek, and chin. The skull encloses and protects the brain. Then the next regional part that we can observe is the neck. You can see a person's neck. And the neck is what attaches the head to the trunk. And the trunk now is our chest, abdomen, and our pelvis area. So we have the head, we have the trunk, and the neck as a connection for the head and the trunk. Then we talk about our limbs, our arms, right? We have upper limbs, right? We have upper limbs and we have lower limbs. So upper limbs consist of our shoulders, our armpits, our arms, our forearms, our wrists, and our hands. While our lower limbs consist of our buttocks, our thigh, our leg, knees, ankle, and our foot. Now, there is a crease at the side here, right in your groin area, a creased area on the left and the right that we know as the groin. You hear people talk about them groin side. It's the groin, G-R-O-I-N. And this is where the trunk, chest, abdomen, pelvis, the trunk attaches to the thigh. Remember, persons, that the information is in your textbook. So we're still looking at anatomical terminologies. That's the big heading. We're going to regional names. And then, moving along, we're going to look at sections, planes, and directional terms. Sections, planes, and directional terms. Once we get through this front part, then it becomes much easier for us to dive into the other regions. So I am just helping you along, which is my duty, to make these streets very easy to navigate. And we're coming up now, we have the word section. What on this medical street, what do they mean when you hear they say a section? What do they mean when they say plane? Okay. So again, the notes is in the book. So don't be afraid to read your book. That's the only way you're going to get value for your hard-earned money that you are investing in yourself. So when we talk about section, again, the meaning of the word is in your book. So section simply means cut through a tissue. Remember we spoke of tissue before. So when you make a cut, it's called a section. You're taking a section from here or a section from there. So whenever a body region is being studied, it is often viewed in section. And remember we had some 5 body regions that we had on the board. We were talking about the head, neck, trunk, upper and lower limbs. So when any of these regions is being studied, it is often viewed in sections. Moving ahead, it is important to know that the plane, there we're coming up now with the word plane, it is important to know the plane of the section. How, along which angle was this section taken? How was the cut made? So it is important to know the plane of the section so that the anatomical relationship, the structural relationship of one part to another can be established. That is why it is important to know the plane of the cut so that you can form relationships. Not you, not I, but those medical doctors who are doing the cutting and suturing and all of that. But on our streets, we give support. So we have to have knowledge of the type of language, even if we're not an active participant in what they're doing, but we know that, okay, he's taking a section along this plane. Okay. So planes are imaginary flat surfaces that passing through an organ of the body. So it's an imaginary flat surface, like a piece of paper going through, or a light, or yeah, going through the body. So you have different types of planes. You have different types of planes, imaginary cut surfaces. All right, and in our books, we have different planes. So the first one coming up is the sagittal plane. And what sagittal mean? Whatever organ you're studying, whatever region you're studying, whatever you're studying, you're gonna make the cut, you're gonna divide the organ or body into a right portion and left portion. All right, so right and left. Okay, that's all it is saying. That sagittal plane, you're dividing into right and left. It's not saying you're doing it 50-50. It's not saying you're doing it 75-25. It's not saying you're doing it 25-80. All sagittal is saying is that you're cutting it into two parts, right and left. But then the doctor or the surgeon can be more specific and will say to the person who is doing the cut, listen, I want a mid-sagittal cut. I want the organ, this organ that we're studying, we're going to study it along the mid-sagittal plane. All right? So it's going to be a mid-sagittal plane coming from the word sagittal. What this is saying now is that this cut is 50-50. This imaginary line, this plane, is dividing the organ or the region or the body in equal segments, half and half, mid-sagittal, half and half. Whereas the word sagittal is just saying right and left. They're getting specific now with the plane of cut and say I need a mid-sagittal. It means a 50-50, right and left, but in equal portion. All right, equal portion. So if you have the body, I can draw in equal portion, right down. Right across your navel, coming right down. One leg over this, so one over this. So half and half, they want it. One eye over here, so one this, so one ear this, so one ear this. So piece of your nose this, so piece over here, so piece of the mouth this. So, and you cut it 50-50. That would be a mid-sagittal plane. Then now, you can have what is known as a para-sagittal plane. And here now what this is saying, it's not done 50-50. Rather, it can be done any which way that the surgeon says. So it is a cut. So it could be a 80-20. So what it is saying, right and left, but the left portion give me 80%, the right 20. And them have the machines where them line up for that study. Remember, you're doing the plane, you're not cutting, it's an imaginary, you're not cutting up the pieces. Unless, yeah, in studies and so, yeah, you'll probably be cutting these up so that students can study and all of that. But you have now mid-sagittal plane and parasagittal plane. The information, again, is in your notes. So feel welcome to look at it. So you have the sagittal plane. And the sagittal plane, it can be a mid-sagittal or it can be a parasagittal plane. Remember, you're not cutting anything. It's an imaginary flat surface. I think maybe when you go for your x-rays and all of that, you see them lights dividing us up into all kind of how. All right, taking pictures at different planes. All right, but people, so we have discussed the sagittal plane, but that's not the only plane that we want to be talking about. We also have frontal, transverse, and oblique. In the sagittal plane that we spoke of, what sagittal is said is a left and right division of the organ or the body part or the region that we are studying. And it's not a cut, it's an imaginary flat surface that they're saying is going through the body or the organ or the region that we are studying. Sagittal, left and right. But then you have two variations of the sagittal. You can have a mid-sagittal plane or you have a parasagittal. Mid-sagittal means you're going 50-50 left and right, so the plane is going through. That imaginary flat surface that is dividing the organ, the region, or the body part is going 50-50. So that's mid-sagittal. Then you can have a parasagittal. It means it can be any variation, 60-40, 20, 80, 75, 25, whatever it is that the medical person needs. He will indicate to you, or she will indicate to you, the type of plane that they want the structure to be analyzed against. So moving along, we go to look at the frontal plane. And what front means front. So, whilst the corona divide the body into left and right, the frontal plane will divide the body into anterior, meaning the front part, anterior, front, posterior, back. So it will be a cut that maybe come from the shoulder and come up the head, or from the head here. So you have a front part and a back part. All right, and that will be a frontal or a coronal cut. Coronal plane. That's how this section will be viewed. It's not a cut. We say cut loosely, but it's not cut. It's an imaginary line that is dividing. So sagittal, left to right. Frontal, the same as coronal. Coronal is anterior, mean front, posterior, back. So front and back. Then you have the transverse plane, which is also known as the horizontal or a cross-sectional. So it divides the organ or body part into superior and inferior, meaning top and bottom. And then you have the oblique, so that is a slant plane. So it's neither horizontal, it's neither frontal nor it's sagittal, it's at an angle. Oblique. So we look at the type of plane that will divide the body into left and right, and the word for that is sagittal. Front and back, or anterior and posterior, the word for that is frontal or coronal. And upper and lower, or superior and inferior, that is transverse. All of the information again is in your notes, so please, it's your book, please make use of it. So we wrap up this session by talking about directional terms now that you'll be hearing on the street. And directional terms are really terms that are used to describe the position of one body part relative to another. Where is this one sitting in relation to that one? That's basically what it is saying. The terms are usually in opposites. So many of the directional terms used to describe the human body can be grouped into pairs that have opposite meanings. Now, it is important to note that directional terms have a relative meaning. That means one in relation to the next. You can't just use one and not use the next. Let me sit a bit and chat with you. So it is important to note that directional terms have relative meanings, and they make sense only when they are used to describe the position of one surface relative to another. For example, the knee is superior to the ankle. So you can look at your knees now and see that the knees are above the ankle. The knees are below the hip. Our bodies can be divided into superior and inferior portion. And it doesn't mean that superior mean better than or inferior mean less than. What it is saying is that anything is superior, when you hear the word superior, is going mostly to the head. And inferior is going towards the feet. So using the umbilicus, your belly button, as the dividing line, anything above the belly button, that's superior in description, is said to be in the superior portion of the body. So your heart, your lungs, your liver, your spleen, maybe your pancreas, so forth, they are in the superior portion of the body. Your pelvic area, your lower limbs, those are in the inferior portion of the body. Even within superior, inferior portions of the body, then directional terms are still used, because in the lower or the upper section of the body, you do have organs that are higher up, or body parts that are higher up than others, but they are still within inferior or superior portion of the body. For example, our knees and our ankles both are situated in the inferior portion of the body. The knees are higher up. They are closer to the head than the ankle. So the knees are superior to the ankle. And there are many more, so you now will go to Google and look up the word directional term, and then you will find that several: deep, superficial; anterior, posterior. Those are two that come to mind. All right, so go to Google and make a list of some other directional terms. We have given you just one example: inferior, superior, and inferior. So now you have to do your extra reading for the additional information.